Brought to you by the EveryDollar app. Start budgeting for free today.
I'm having a little conflict with my husband, and I wanted your input on the situation.
Sure.
For a little background, when we first started the baby steps, we were both working full-time, and we decided to take a small allowance and put the rest on the joint account and pay the bills and, do the snowball. I physically paid the bills because he'd been kind of inconsistent before, so over the time it just kind of became my job. About 2.5 years ago, I became totally disabled, and now all I get is a Social Security disability check. But his income grew, and he never told me. And I just found out that he's been keeping $2,600 a month of income that I didn't know he was making. Now, $400 of that does go to a second retirement account. He's already retired once and gets a retirement check. And when I brought it up and tried to discuss all this, he refused to pause it or put any of the extra money toward the bills and just absolutely refused to discuss it.
How did you find out?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I did what you said, and when I had, became disabled, I called my creditors and started working with them. And I was working with the IRS to forgive a tax debt. And so I needed a copy of his latest pay stub. And I can read a pay stub. And first one I'd seen in like 12 years and discovered what he had been doing. And he admitted it. And when I asked him why he was doing it and didn't tell me he had been making more money and more side jobs, he said, because if I told you, you'd take all my money.
Interesting. So what was he spending it on? You said the 400 to retirement, but is there anything to show for this money? Or was it just the drive-through?
He has about $200 in personal bills that he pays, bills that he said, I'm going to take this on, but I'm going to pay for it out of my money.
How long have you guys been married?
Almost 23 years.
And you've had separate accounts the entire time?
Hey, George here with a quick interruption. If something were to happen to you tomorrow, would your family know where to find your life insurance policy, your will, even your Netflix password? Well, Knockbox solves that. It's a kit that organizes your financial accounts, estate plans, and everything your family would need all in one place. That way they don't have to hack into your laptop or locate some long-lost thumb drive. So leave them a legacy, not a scavenger hunt with Knockbox. Ramsey fans get the best discount available at knockbox.com/Ramsey. That's knockbox.com/Ramsey.
You've had separate accounts the entire time?
Well, no, we have the joint account. This is a second marriage for both of us. So we had our own personal accounts when we came into the relationship. So we just used our personal accounts for our allowance, and then all the rest of the money was put into the joint. But at the time, I had a different, knowledge of what his income was, and as it grew, he never
but you weren't seeing the money in the joint account.
He was having. I thought the whole thing was being auto-deposited, but what he was doing was he was splitting some to go into his personal account, some to go into a savings account, and the rest to go into the joint.
All right, my partner here is about ready to pop here. What are you thinking?
Well, I wanted to make sure I understood both sides of the story, but you kind of laid it out for me in that, you said you each have individual accounts, but then you have this joint account, right? Did I hear that right?
Right. Yeah, the joint account is where we put supposedly all the money.
Okay, but there's a crack there. There's a leak in that pipe, because now you've eliminated transparency when you said my check goes into my account first, and then I am being trusted to then put the full amount into this joint account, or to put the amount that I say into this joint account. Because my question for you then would be, does he have the login and passwords to your personal account? And do you have the logins and account to his personal account? And did you before all this happened?
No.
Okay. So that's where I say, the point of combining finances is not just to say, and we have this joint account that we put some money in. The point of it is complete transparency and trust. That's at the core of why we do that.
Right.
And so that's where there was a hiccup in this plan. And what I think without you intending it, and maybe without him intending it, are two things. Number one, when you both agree to eliminate that transparency, then it also invites the ability to hide things. Because
and if you can't trust your husband, who can you trust?
But you have said that you don't trust each other, because you opened this by saying this is our second marriage, and which means there's a caveat there. Because it's our second marriage, we don't trust each other as much. Because it's our second marriage, we've decided to do things a little different. Because it's our second marriage, we have our own accounts. That has a lot of implication in it based on what you were saying.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
You know what I mean?
I was just mentioning. I was just mentioning it was our second marriage as an explanation as to why we had our own account.
Exactly, and
So-
I'm agreeing with you. But what I really wanted to ask you, Beth, was the thing that you said when you asked him about it, and he said, "Well, I'm afraid she'll take all of it."
Yeah.
Is there any truth to that? Good or
He said
bad?
you'll take. Well, okay, so Dave said gazelle, and I am like, uber gazelle, and maybe I was guilty of being a little bit too frisky on saying the bills down really fast.
Okay.
I might plead guilty to that.
Okay.
But
And I'm not saying, don't get me wrong, it's no
Yeah.
excuse for him to have been dishonest with you, but I think there's what I'm saying is I think there's room for both of you guys to budge on this. What I was listening for, Beth, is a bad guy. I'm listening to see, is this a bad guy? Is this a guy who's really disrespecting her? Is this a guy who, that we need to put in his place? But I don't, Ken, what do you think? I don't think so.
Well,
I don't think he may be a
man.
bad guy, but he's a bad husband.
Well,
right now. So here's my question, Beth. What is your question for us? Because this is pretty awful stuff. This has got to be shaking you. So how can we help today? Because this is a massive marriage problem that involves very intentional therapy. Yes?
100%.
Well, when I became disabled, it was my job to pay the bills, run the household. I take care of everything.
Mm-hmm.
When I became disabled 2.5 years ago, that did not stop. And so trying to manage the same bills and reconcile the ones that we couldn't pay and dealing with creditors, that fell on me. And I've been very, very sick for 2.5 years. And so I just, in anger, when I discovered this, I told him, I said, I tried to discuss it, and I said, I'm not going to take all your money, but we agreed on an allowance. And since I went on Social Security disability, I felt guilty taking an allowance. So I put my entire check just
and so
straight into the joint.
here, Beth, here is where I want to jump in, because this is where the issue is. Again, I want to be very clear. What he did was wrong. He should not have treated the money that way. He should not have been duplicitous in that way. However, there is an unhealthiness in how the money's being handled also on your end. And I can tell you, adults don't like being treated like children. And so for him, I could understand feeling like, hey, I go to work all day. I give my money over to my spouse and they give me an allowance and I've been busting my butt all day. People don't like that. So what we would suggest, and what I would suggest here, is you guys really do have to be on one accord with this, which is we both work. We decide together how our money is being spent. We're going to decide what goes onto bills. We are going to have everything in one joint account, not accounts off to the side, but we get paid into the same account so we can all see it, full transparency. And then we decide how much, Beth, are you going to spend on fun? How much is he going to spend on fun? And we see it together. And if you, Beth, choose not to spend your fun money, that's your choice. He's still a man and wants to feel like he can.
Yeah. I see your side, but I also think that this is a marriage problem.
It is.
And we got to find out pretty quick if he's willing to fix this marriage problem. Both of you come to the table, own both of your stuff, and see if we can have a clear path forward. That's our answer.
Create your free every dollar budget today, the simplest way to budget for your life.